News had barely broken about Ghislaine Maxwell's shocking revelation implicating Trump when cameras caught Jasmine Crockett preparing to speak. The air was thick with anticipation, reporters tripping over each other to ask what she thought. For a brief moment, she glanced down at her notes, then looked up with a calm so practiced it felt unshakable. Instead of dodging the topic, she leaned into it, her words tinged with disbelief and a biting humor that turned every phrase into a sharp edge. The audience fell silent, sensing something unscripted was coming. Jasmine didn't bother pretending shock at Trump being caught in fresh controversy. Her expression said it all. This wasn't surprising, it was pathetic. With a faint, almost amused smile, she recited parts of the allegation, then paused just long enough to let the absurdity sink in. Her tone wasn't outraged. It was dismissive, as if to say that the real scandal wasn't the accusation itself, but that so many still acted surprised by it. That approach cut deeper than anger could, turning the story from bombshell to punchline. Viewers at home watched as she delivered a series of quick, mocking lines that felt improvised, yet landed perfectly. Each comment balanced sarcasm with a blunt truth that exposed what she saw as Trump's long pattern of evasion and denial. The laughter from some corners of the audience wasn't loud, but it was real, growing stronger with every passing remark. Jasmine didn't shout or insult him directly. Instead, she painted the image of a man so trapped in scandal that each new revelation barely registered anymore. The effect was devastating because it felt authentic. Jasmine wasn't grandstanding for the cameras. She was reacting the way many wished they could, blending humor with frustration to strip away the tired narrative of Trump as untouchable. Her mocking tone wasn't childish. It was weary, the humor of someone who had seen the pattern repeat too many times to feign surprise. It resonated because it turned Trump's carefully built aura of power into something almost pitiable. Timelines flooded within minutes with clips. Caption: Jasmine just roasted him and this is how you do it. Analysts praised how she kept her remarks short, letting the absurdity speak for itself. By refusing to match Trump's volume or his style, Jasmine denied him the chaos he thrived on. Instead of raging, she reduced his bombshell scandal to a sad, predictable headline. That reframing made the revelation feel less like a shocking twist and more like the inevitable next chapter. Trump's team scrambled to respond, dismissing Maxwell's claim and attacking Jasmine for being disrespectful. But the tone had already shifted. People weren't debating if Jasmine had gone too far. They were debating why so many still acted surprised by the allegations themselves. Her humor had moved the conversation from defending Trump to questioning why the bar for shock had dropped so low. That pivot stuck, making it harder for his defenders to keep the focus where they wanted. What made Jasmine's remarks land so well wasn't just the mockery, but the subtle shift to substance. After the laughs, she turned serious, reminding viewers of the real harm behind the scandals, the victims, the culture of silence, and the people in power who enabled it. By acknowledging the human cost, she avoided the trap of making it only about Trump. The laughter set the stage. The truth anchored it, leaving an impact that felt both sharp and meaningful. Even those who didn't agree with her politics noted the skill in her delivery. It wasn't a reckless rant. It was controlled, shaped by frustration, but never overshadowed by it. Jasmine knew exactly when to stop joking and pivot to the point that mattered. That control made her words feel credible, turning what could have been a fleeting viral moment into something people kept replaying, dissecting, and quoting days later. Trump, true to form, fired back online, calling her irrelevant and desperate for attention. But the posts felt tired, lacking the spark that once dominated headlines. The more he tried to mock her, the more the clip of her mocking him spread. People seemed to prefer the version of events where she stayed calm, witty, and sharp over. His defensive anger, the contrast wasn't flattering for him, and no amount of tweets seemed able to close that gap. Jasmine herself avoided making it personal in follow-up interviews. Asked if she stood by her words, she smiled and simply said, "I'm not surprised, and neither should anyone else be." That refusal to apologize, or soften her stance, added to the sense that this wasn't just a moment of mockery. It was a choice to say aloud what many quietly thought. And in that choice, she didn't just score a point, she reminded viewers why mockery can sometimes reveal truths that outrage alone can't. As the news cycle churned forward, Jasmine's remarks refused to fade. They kept resurfacing not because they were scandalous in tone, but because they felt honest in a world where so many statements sounded rehearsed. Clips of her dry smile and quick remarks found their way onto podcasts, late-night shows, and social media threads discussing the deeper pattern of Trump's scandals. The laughter her words sparked wasn't cruel, it was the weary laughter of people fed up with repeated excuses. Finally voiced on live television, observers noted how Jasmine's tone had done something few could manage. It pulled the conversation back from shock and outrage to reality. Instead of letting the bombshell dominate, she turned it into proof of what was already known. In doing so, she shifted the power dynamic. Trump was no longer the unpredictable force shaking politics, but the predictable headline whose denial sounded weaker each time. That framing stuck in viewers' minds, making it harder for the scandal to vanish behind spin. Even in critical circles, there was quiet respect for her delivery. The humor didn't trivialize the seriousness of Maxwell's claim, underlined how serious it was that nothing about it felt surprising anymore. By laughing at the pattern, Jasmine forced people to confront just how many times they'd seen similar stories, only to watch them fade from accountability. It was mockery. But mockery with a purpose, and that purpose echoed long after the cameras turned away. In later comments, Jasmine insisted her focus wasn't on Trump personally, but on the culture that protected powerful men while dismissing victims. That pivot turned mockery into a tool rather than an end. It gave her remarks a weight beyond entertainment, reminding viewers why it mattered in the first place. And though some tried to dismiss her as grandstanding, the steady way she returned to substance made that criticism feel hollow. For Trump, the scandal itself became only part of the problem. His response to Jasmine's mocking, angry posts, scattered insults played poorly beside her composed sarcasm. The angrier he grew, the calmer she seemed, deepening the sense that she had struck a nerve. Viewers saw it too, the difference between someone shaken and someone speaking from a place of frustrated certainty. It turned the fallout into a broader question of credibility, and in that contest, Trump's anger offered little defense. By the week's end, the viral moment had traveled beyond politics. People who rarely watch debates or floor speeches saw the clip on timelines labeled, "Finally Someone Says It." The humor carried the message, but it was the pivot back to real harm that gave it staying power. The clip wasn't just about laughing at Trump. It was about refusing to pretend this was new or shocking and calling out the system that let it keep happening. For many, that was what made it powerful. It refused to let fresh scandal overshadow old truths. It didn't excuse or normalize the claim. It exposed the real scandal as the routine way people brushed such things aside. Jasmine's mocking tone, rather than belittling the victims, pointed to the absurdity of a culture where the same men could be caught in scandal over and still spin it as politics rather than accountability. Trump kept trying to shift the story, but each new post only reignited interest in the clip. It wasn't rage or a dramatic takedown that kept people sharing it. It was the tired, sharp honesty of someone who'd seen this show before. That honesty felt rare, and it turned a passing headline into something bigger, a reminder that even the loudest denials can't erase what people already suspect to be true in the end. Jasmine's words outlived the day's news cycle. They did more than mock. The power lay not in how savage the comeback sounded, but in what it revealed, that mockery can sometimes cut deeper than outrage, because it points to the truth everyone sees, but few say aloud. And in that brief moment on live TV, her laughter spoke for many, turning disbelief into clarity, reminding everyone watching that denial grows weakest when it becomes predictable.